back to my channel. So I feel like it's been a while since I've just like sat down and made a dedicated review for one particular fragrance, and I kind of miss doing that. So yeah, today, as you probably saw by the title, I'm gonna talk about Narciso Rodriguez Musc Noir Rose. And I am actually like probably 2 years late to the party. I remember this perfume was hyped up so much on both TikTok and YouTube. Like everyone was raving about it and like talking about how obsessed they were with it. I feel like I heard like only good things about this perfume, but like I never got around to actually buying it because it is like pretty expensive. But recently I actually found the 100 ml on Amazon for like $76. There were actually like 7 left in stock when I bought it. If you have not yet subscribed, make sure to do so. And also don't forget to like the video because it helps out with the algorithm a lot and boosts my ego.
So yeah, thank you.
And welcome as always if you're returning. I love you. So let's go over the note breakdown of Musc Noir Rose. So in the top, we have plum, pink pepper, and bergamot. In the middle, we have musk, rose, and tuberose, and the base is vanilla. Pretty simple note structure for the most part. Every note that is listed, I like totally smell and can like totally pick apart with this perfume, except for maybe the bergamot, and I don't get a whole lot of the tuberose, but plum, pink pepper, musk, rose, and vanilla are all so prominent and like really make up the backbone of this fragrance. And okay, sorry, my boyfriend texted me.
Anyways.
If you have watched like any of my previous videos, you know that I really don't like rose as a note. And whenever I see like rose pretty high up on like the main accords list, or even just like see rose as a note in the pyramid, like I kind of like get turned off, and I'm not a big rose person. I don't know why. I feel like rose is it's just not something that I like in perfume. Like it's a pleasant smell, but it can oftentimes smell like kind of dated and too soapy. I don't know. I've never liked rose, and so that did make me a little bit scared to try this perfume because it's literally called Musc Noir Rose. But what I will say is that if you're like me and you don't really like rose notes in perfumes, I would not count this fragrance out because I actually really enjoy it despite it being pretty rose heavy. So I don't think it's like a total rose centered perfume. Like I don't know if I would like include rose in the name because I don't think it's like that prominent, but it's definitely there. Let's just go ahead and actually give it a spray. Now that I'm smelling it, I'm kind of actually like getting the bergamot. I feel like every note, like I really am just picking up. Right away, it opens with like a very bright, almost like slightly effervescent pink pepper. Some people have said they don't really smell the pink pepper, but I do feel like it has this warm kind of spice, like a floral spice that's like unique to pink pepper. It's not like black pepper or other spicy notes. It's a very warm and floral kind of oriental opening, kind of reminiscent of Glossier You. And that's actually a comparison that I'm going to be making a lot in this video because I feel like there's a lot of things in that perfume that like remind me of this. The rose in this is not like, it's not a super strong rose. The kind of rose in this is more like a dusty, powdery, fluffy kind of rose. And I feel like that is the kind of rose that like I can tolerate. The same kind of rose that you would find in Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian. That's another perfume that I really enjoy and happens to have a rose note. It's just like very light and fluffy and it blends in really seamlessly with the other notes, so like I don't really have an issue with it. And then as the perfume begins to settle, that's when I start getting the plum. And so I think that this is a very plum forward fragrance. If I were to like break down like super simply and just like generally what I think this perfume smells like, I feel like it's plum, rose, musk, and a little bit of vanilla. Those are like 4 main things that I smell. If you don't like that kind of darker fruity note, then this might not be for you. This perfume really wasn't what I was expecting, I feel like, because like all the videos that I watched described it as being this total like men killer, like super like deep, sexy, crazy fragrance. But I don't see this as like total date night, like sexy. Like this to me is really elegant. It's put together, it's delicate. It's a very soft and smooth perfume that like doesn't bother the nose. It's just like a very easy scent to be around. One way that I've been really thinking about perfumes lately is how I like divide them between wet and syrupy smelling or dry and powdery smelling. And there are like a few exceptions to perfumes that I would kind of like place in the middle. That's like a combination of both. But most of the time, those are like the two main categories of like smell. This like makes so much sense in my head. Like for example, if we take a look at Libre Parfum, this is very much a wet, syrupy, super sweet and strong perfume. If we were to take a look at Devotion by Dolce & Gabbana, this is much more powdery. It's still very sweet, but it's more of a dusty, dry kind of sweetness. Yeah, I really want to like paint a picture as to like what those like two categories are like, because this one to me really fits into the powdery one. It's more dry, powdery. I want to make two comparisons. Hold on, let me go grab them. Two perfumes that I feel like Musc Noir Rose really reminds me of are Glossier You and Moonlight by Ariana Grande. And so it has a similar kind of muskiness as Glossier You, both super musky, skin like clean, almost like post-bath feeling kind of vibes. Really skin-like. I have grown to really like this category of musks, and so like that's kind of what I'm getting. I would say Glossier You is a much brighter and more floral, pink peppery kind of scent, and this is like definitely darker version of that kind of scent profile. And the other perfume that I think it really smells like is Moonlight by Ariana Grande. It's definitely would not consider this to be a dupe. I just like smell kind of a similarity because this is also a very plum heavy fragrance, and like you really get that kind of dark, plummy, kind of juicy and more mature fruity note. I would say Moonlight is a lot more flirty and girlier and hyper feminine. It's much more sugary. It smells like a lot more perfumey to me. Musc Noir Rose is definitely the older sister to both of these perfumes that I just mentioned. They're like half siblings, you know what I mean? Like they're really not that similar. I don't want you to think that they like smell identical, because they don't. Those are just like things that remind me of this perfume. And on that note, this perfume and like this entire line is the For Her line. I, in general, don't really like it when companies heavily gender their perfumes like that, because it's just like, we're in 2024. Obviously this was released 2 years ago, but like it just like really contributes to the normalization of that gender binary. And like with perfume, I really think that people can and should wear whatever they like, regardless of whether it leans like feminine or masculine. I can go on like a whole tangent about this because it is something that like I'm very passionate about, but I don't think that this is a super hyper feminine fragrance, despite it being like really heavily marketed towards women. I actually think that this perfume can be quite unisex. Like I don't find it to be super sweet, and it just lacks a kind of like super sweet feminine perfuminess that you would find in something like Burberry Goddess. It's so powdery and delicately controlled in terms of sweetness. I could totally envision like any gender rocking this perfume and like really loving it. So yeah, it's a really beautiful fragrance. Let's get into the actual rating portion. I know that took like forever, but as for presentation, I really love the bottle. It's just a really nice bottle. It looks classy. It's like high quality. It makes like really good ASMR sounds. Very simple and basic and minimalistic, but like that's like the kind of vibe that I really like. The atomizer in this is also like fantastic. Like it's so smooth, and like you can really control how much you spray, which is really nice. That makes it kind of like customizable, because like you can control how much of your scent is made up of this perfume, if that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like that's definitely something that I really appreciate, because I do like to layer my fragrances, and so I like to be able to use like a specific amount of a particular perfume so it doesn't like overpower another fragrance or get overpowered. On to the smell. This is a really nice smelling fragrance. I won't say that this is like my favorite smell in the entire world, because it's not. I'm just someone who like really loves super sweet, like gourmand fragrances, and this is not that. Like I would not consider this to be a gourmand scent. I do think it has a sweetness. I think it has a pretty prominent vanilla note, especially as it's drying down, but it's like not a gourmand, and that's okay. I still think that it's a fantastic scent. I think it's really well made and well blended. When I first smelled this fragrance, I wasn't like blown away. I was kind of like surprised because it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I was, based on like reviews that I've seen, I was expecting it to be something similar to like La Belle Le Parfum, like something super syrupy, candy sweet, but it's really not that. It's like a dusty, powdery, fluffy perfume. It has sweetness, but it's also really elegant and almost feels like kind of formal and mature. I would also say that to some noses, it will definitely come off as smelling a little bit more mature. But like by that, I do not mean it's like entering grandma territory, like at all. I don't think it smells like old, but I do think that it's more of a mature scent because it just feels really put together. I wouldn't even say like it's like a mature scent. I would say this truly is a perfume that can appeal to all ages, and I feel like anyone could really enjoy it. I can definitely see why there's so much hype surrounding it. I feel like it's a really likable scent. There's nothing in this perfume that like really jumps out at you. It's a very like neutral kind of perfume, and I really appreciate that about this perfume. It feels so like wearable to me. And even though it isn't like my favorite smell in the world, I have been reaching for this perfume like a ton. It's kind of like same boat as Glossier You, whereas like it's just so clean and easy to wear, and like I just like love being around that kind of smell. And lastly, let's quickly talk about its performance. I've also seen some pretty mixed reviews about the performance of this fragrance. I will say that my bottle is still like really new, so like it's very possible that I have to like give it time to macerate for the perfume to like actually develop. But from my testing, I would say I've tested it for like about a week or so. Sillage is definitely moderate. This is not a super loud projecting fragrance, as I've been kind of like emphasizing throughout this review. Like I think it's very dainty and delicate and just not heady or in your face at all. I would not expect this perfume to like fill up a room. As for longevity, I would also say it's pretty moderate. I actually put this perfume on in the morning today at around 10, and then I got home at around 4:35ish, so that's like 7 to 8 hours that I was like kind of out about, like just going on with my day. And when I came back, I could still smell like a trace of the perfume on my wrist. It's definitely softer. If anything, I think maybe I would like it to project a little more because it is a really beautiful fragrance and I would want it to be noticed. But overall, longevity is pretty solid as long as you don't like expect it to really project. That about sums up my thoughts on Musc Noir Rose from the house of Narciso Rodriguez. I really am so excited about this perfume, and I'm just really happy to like have it in my collection because it's just something that like I've wanted for so long and like have wanted to get my nose on. This was also like a totally blind buy, by the way. Like I was just so confident that I would like it that like I bought it anyways, and I do. Before I go, I want to talk to you guys about some layering combinations that I really think are fantastic for Musc Noir Rose. I feel like I'm gonna start doing that in my fragrance reviews, is to talk about like layering combinations that I think really go well with the specific perfume. Let me be right back. So obviously these two you can layer with it just because they have a pretty similar scent profile, and I really think that they would blend together nicely. So yeah, those two for sure. Kilian's Love Don't Be Shy. As I was also mentioning briefly earlier, this has the same kind of like fluffy, dusty rose, a very light and powdery kind of rose, and I feel like I actually wore these two together today and I thought it was delightful. I feel like Love Don't Be Shy also gives the fragrance like a really nice touch of sweetness that just like brightens it up. Next up is Thank You Next by Ariana Grande, and so this is also a more rose heavy fragrance, I would say, but it's like a sugared rose. It's like combined with other gourmand notes, so it's really sweet. I feel like this would just layer so nicely with Musc Noir Rose since it is such a neutral kind of scent, so that it like makes for a really good base for like almost anything that you want to layer on top of it. But this specifically, I really love how the rose in this and the sweetness blends with the smell of Musc Noir Rose. And lastly, Maud Vanilla by Ariana Grande. I actually see some like minor similarities between these perfumes, and I think the reason is because they both have musk and also plum. Obviously, the plum in Maud Vanilla is much less pronounced and dominant in the scent, but you still do get like a really beautiful and unique kind of fruitiness. This is so sweet and it really adds a beautiful sweetness when you layer it on top of this fragrance that I just adore. The musk and the plum really blend together nicely and they don't clash. Like actually match made in heaven. So good. Those are my recommendations, and I also think that kind of sums up my review on Musc Noir Rose. Let me know if you have smelled this perfume. I'm sure like a ton of you have already smelled it, tried it, even own it, because it was so popular just like a couple years ago and was trending, and I'm really late, but let me know your thoughts on this perfume. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you're all doing well. That's gonna be it for me today, and I will see you all very soon.